comes to mind when you hear 2020? Well, for me, I hear 20 plus years of teaching, and the year 2020 was unbelievable. We had to build a virtual platform for learning during a pandemic. We're going to do a little exercise. We're going to close our eyes. We're going to take a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out. You're going to hear some words. Keep your eyes closed. Love. Unappreciated. Anxiety. Fear. Emotional. Heartbreaking. Caring. Depression. Anxiety. Now open your eyes. Take a deep breath. This is a teacher in 2020, 2021. All of us have felt some type of uneasiness. Sometimes in our lives, we have to make a mind shift in order to get ourselves together. I believe that everyone during this pandemic had to do a mind reshuffle. My staff and I, we spent time together trying to figure out where to start during all this chaos. We thought long and hard in our teams, and we were just trying to figure out what should be the most important thing. And the most important thing was a relationship with our students. Our students were already in an unsettled time. Everything was unpredictable. As for us, we know that they were experiencing things at home just like we were. But we did have this one common thing. It was our students. Did you know that the most important relationship that a student could have is with their teacher? A teacher and a student relationship is the most important relationship. It looks into their social development as well as their academic development. Let's think for a minute. All this, and we were trying to figure out how to protect our students' emotional state. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about myself. I was an all-boys teacher. I taught single gender boys. I looped from 3rd grade to 6th grade. And yes, it was a challenge, but I was up for the challenge. Well, I spent the beginning part of the year just building relationships, different types of relationships. I needed to target their emotional state as well as their physical state. So I always did things that would celebrate my boys. So at the end of every year, after we've worked hard all year, the state test is done and over with, we began to celebrate. So I would take all my boys to dinner. They would dress up. We would go out to eat. And the parents would say, "Do I have to pay?" And I was like, "No, I got you. I got you." And to see the expressions on my boys' face that we're going to dinner, and then to hear them have the conversations of, "I've never been there. I never had a teacher do what she's doing for me." So then I started thinking, I am building a different type of relationship. My boys knew that I loved and cared for them. So I was like, yes, we're going to go to dinner. I saw my boys on a different platform. I saw them outside of school, celebrating themselves and their classmates, but yet we were having conversation. So in the classroom, I always played this game, Hot Rods, Slowpokes, and Turtles. I thought of it, don't take it wrong. Hot rods are the speedy ones that know their math facts. Slowpokes, I know them, but I'm just not that quick. And then I had my turtles, and they were slow, but they could be better. So I had one of my students, Zaire, hated to study. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to get? How can I get this child to study? So in my class, I put people together, highs and lows together. So one day I saw Zaire just really working hard in a corner studying. Then the next day I saw him with a couple of the hot rods studying some more. So on Friday, that's when the big competition was. They all came together and they could really go up against anybody that they wanted to go up against. So he decided that he wanted to go up against a hot rod. And I was like, oh, good. I'm cheering him on. The boys is cheering him on. All of a sudden, Zaire beat the hot rod. Him having that resilient spirit shifted all of us. He wanted something and he strived to do it. He had that resilient spirit inside him. Has anybody ever had to be resilient? I know during this pandemic, I had to be resilient, my staff had to be resilient, and our children had to be resilient. I have a teacher, Miss Miller. I love Miss Miller. She teaches first grade. And in her class, she has embedded yoga. I go on Fridays to yoga. I dress down, I have my mat, and I go to yoga on Fridays. Miss Miller has done such a dynamic job with her children using mindfulness strategies and using resilient vocabulary. The kids can speak the language. They stay centered. They talk about being compassionate. They talk about friendship. We all want that type of spirit. But then, on top of being resilient, we have to look at the whole child. How are we going to do the same things in a virtual platform? In our virtual platform, we had to create activities and lessons that would build on these things. We had games and videos for the first 30 minutes of our day. We needed to check in with our kids. We needed to know mentally where were our babies. So then we started to talk about strength. So we talked about being resilient and how our children are resilient, how our teachers, how we were resilient. We talked about building relationships. Now we got to talk about strength because we have to be strong. I know personally for me, during this pandemic, I didn't feel strong. I didn't have the strength, but I had a support system. I had my colleagues, I had my administrator, I had my family as a support system. I look at my children and they are my strength. My staff is my strength. So as a younger child, let's say not a younger child, I was in college, undergrad. God knows, we've all been there. So in undergrad, I had a teacher who was not nice. I worked very hard in this class, and I wanted to do whatever was needed to be successful. I went to her class every day. I went to her office and I was like, please, I need your help. And that teacher told me that I needed to do something else other than teaching. At that minute, she broke my spirit. I looked at her and I said, why would you say that to me? Why would you say that to any student? I immediately left her office. I rushed back to my dorm room. Meanwhile, I was shaking and I was crying. I hurried up and got back and I called my mom because that was my strength. I called her and I said, and I was just bawling. She was like, Tayana, what is wrong? I said, Mommy. Yes, I'm one of those kids that I called my mom, Mommy. It didn't matter how old I was getting, it was going to be Mommy. So I said, this teacher just told me that I need to look somewhere else, in some other path. My mother said, stop crying. I was like, huh? She said, stop crying. She said, this woman does not know your destiny. She does not know the journey that where you have come from. She does not know that. She said, you're going to take what she just said to you and you're going to prove her wrong. I took a deep breath. She said, you know why you're going to prove her wrong? Because you have the strength. I had to stop and think. I am being strong. She was my strength. At that time, I promised myself that I would never tell one of my students what they could and couldn't do. I said from that point on that I would feed into every child that came across my class. So let's look back real quick. We know that in order for children to strive, we have to build relationships with them. We have to look at how resilient they may be and how strong. Where is their strength coming from? My staff and I have taken these things and made our school and students feel safe. That is the bottom line. How are we going to make our students feel safe during all this virtual learning? These are the things that we're going to do. We're going to build relationships, we're going to be resilient, and we're going to be strong. Thank you for listening.